You are watching HLN News Now. I'm Susan Hendricks, and today for Mike Galanos and where Vinnie Politan left off. We are on verdict watch in the Loud Music murder trial. Will we see a verdict today? That is the question. The jury has been deliberating now. How long? A little more than 16 hours in the fate of Michael Dunn, of that man on the right-hand side of your screen. He is accused of firing into an SUV filled with teens after an argument over loud music. 17-year-old Jordan Davis was killed. Joining me live, criminal defense attorney Trinity Hundredmark is here with us in studio. Also joining me from New York, HLN legal analyst Joey Jackson is back. Good to have you both here. Trinity, the amount of time that it's taken, does that concern you if you're the prosecution?
If you're the prosecution, I think it does concern you a little bit. I mean, what you want is you want them to go back there and just be so convinced that he's guilty that they're going to automatically come back with a guilty verdict, and that's not what's happened. They've now been deliberating for 3 days. They've been, it looks as if they're taking their time going through evidence. They've asked questions of the judge. They've asked to see certain things, and there are a lot of things to think about, but I think if you're a prosecutor, you're a little concerned right now.
Joey, you and I have been together through a couple trials now. You can never really predict how a jury is going to go, what they're deciding, what they're talking about right now as we speak. It could just be one person, one issue. Does this concern you if you're the prosecution, if you're thinking, okay, this seemed like a pretty solid case. We have a young boy, 17 years old. He is dead. And the man on trial, Michael Dunn, did not call police. Not only did he not call police, he ordered a pizza, not calling 911. It sounds like, to me, pretty slam dunk case, but it seems not so.
Sure, Susan. Good afternoon. And how are you, Trinity? Listen, you know what? Everything concerns you, whether you're on the prosecution's team or you're on the defense team. But ultimately, you're not concerned because you know that you have a jury that has a lot to think about. Now, remember, Susan, not only are they looking at the issue of self-defense and looking at whether or not it's plausible, but they're going through the main charge, first degree, and the lesser included offenses, second degree, and manslaughter. In addition to that, Susan, they're also evaluating the charges as they relate to the other occupants, the attempted murder. So there's a lot to work through, and you want, at the end of the day, the jury to make a decision that they can live with for the rest of their life. So if they're going to deliberate, let it be 16, 17 hours, however long it takes, but do your job, which is to do justice.
And Trinity, we're looking at the charges here. First-degree murder is life in prison. Second-degree, minimum 25 years. Manslaughter, 9 to 30. 3 attempted murder charges for the other 3 boys in the car. 20 years each, firing at a car up to 15 years. So could that be the holdup?
Yeah, and Joey's right. I mean, definitely you got 4 victims, 1 who's obviously deceased and 3 who are still living, and you've got all these different charges. So it is a lot to wade through, and you're talking about lay people that aren't educated in the law per se. They've been given jury instructions, but it's a lot for them to try to figure out. And so that could account for the length, but it's not the slam dunk that I think some people had thought, because if it was, we certainly would hopefully have a verdict by now, but it is a lot to get through.
Joey, how do you think Michael Dunn did on the stand? If you're defending him, you put him up there, he seemed to hold his own, if you will, in terms of what he was saying, seemed pretty consistent to me. He came off as smug, though, but can the jury take that into consideration when they're going back and deliberating, or is it all about the facts, what he said? Was he in fear of his life?
You know what? What happens, Susan, is the jury evaluates everything. And they not only evaluate you, that jury that is, when you're speaking, they evaluate you when you're sitting in that defense chair and how you're comporting yourself. Now, as to his testimony, he had a story and he stuck to that story. Here's the concern, though. The concern is, and we all cross-examine people differently. There's no wonderful way to cross-examine. Someone's not right and someone's not wrong. But the concern with the cross-examination was that the prosecutor let him elaborate and let him embellish. And during cross-examination, the rule of thumb is that you testify as the attorney and you, witness, are going to be controlled by me and you're going to answer my questions yes or no. I don't want to know about you weren't there, Mr. Guy. I don't want to know about, well, it seems like it's strange, but that's exactly what happened. I want you to answer me properly. Is it a yes or is it a no? Because in cross, I get to ask the questions and you get to answer them. So based on that lack of control, he was able to embellish, but the jury finally, Susan, could evaluate him, see that he may be smug, see that he may be arrogant, and see that perhaps he's exaggerating, and they could hold that against him. Let's see what they do.
Joey, a good move on the prosecution side to show the interrogation tapes, to show the inconsistencies in his statements?
Well, you know, I thought that was good for two reasons, Susan. Number one, it speaks to the issue of inconsistency. What did he say during the interrogation, and how was that inconsistent from what he told that jury, and how was it inconsistent from that letter he wrote from prison in June of 2013? That's the first thing. The second thing is the interrogation tapes also, he was being cross-examined by law enforcement, and you evaluate what he was saying there, and you evaluate his story, and you have to see whether or not he was justified and does it make sense. So for those two reasons, the inconsistencies, and for the reasons of evaluating whether his story really holds muster and passes the smell test, I thought it was very good for the interrogation tapes to be played.
And I bet the jury is thinking about exactly what you just said, Joey. And Trinity, a lot to talk about. We are going to continue watching this.